Before your eyes are even open, your mind is already at work. It checks the calendar. It counts what is unfinished. It pulls up what you forgot yesterday and what you might fail at today. By the time you leave the house, your mind feels like a browser with 30 tabs open. Tasks, worries, old comparisons, unanswered messages, imaginary conversations. Everything is running at once. So you are awake, but not really rested. You have not entered the day. You have been dragged into it by a mind that never clocked out. This is the quiet exhaustion many people mistake for being responsible. The mind thinks, but it also doubts. It judges. It rehearses danger. It keeps asking whether you are enough, ready enough, worthy enough, safe enough. Every time you tell yourself, "I cannot stop," something in you is pushed back onto the factory floor. The inner machine keeps running even when it is already overheated. And one day, you realize what has been wearing you down. It was not life itself. It was the endless meeting inside your own head. That is why abundance often begins in a place that looks almost too simple. It begins when you stop arguing with yourself. It begins when the mind is finally allowed to clock out. When the questioning softens, another signal can be heard. It is quieter than fear. It does not shout over the room, but it has a steadiness you can feel. And when you begin to live from that steadiness, life starts meeting you differently. Opportunities do not have to be chased so violently. Money does not have to be approached like a battlefield. Something in you becomes easier for good things to reach. Welcome back to Momentum Arc. When you like, comment, subscribe, or send a super thanks, you help this work travel farther. It reaches more people who are ready for quiet, real change. Louise Hay became one of the defining voices in modern self-help and spiritual healing. Her best-known book, You Can Heal Your Life, first published in 1984, reached more than 50 million readers worldwide and became an entry point into inner healing for many people. She asked people to look at the way they were meeting life from the inside, the criticism, the anxiety, the pressure, and the need to control everything. At the heart of her teaching was one simple reversal. The universe does not respond to effort alone. It responds to the frequency you keep living from. If the inside of you is filled with doubt and lack, effort can easily become more struggle. You may work harder, plan better, and push longer, yet still feel as if nothing truly reaches you. But when something inside begins to relax, trust, and open, life can begin to meet you differently. This is where abundance becomes practical. It is not something you force into your life by gripping harder. It comes closer when control loosens its grip inside you. You still act, you still choose, you still take responsibility, but your actions begin from a different place. And this is where Hay's teaching touches the world we live in now. Our time has made logic the only language many people trust. Every choice must be examined. Every risk must be measured. Every dream must be defended with numbers before it is allowed to exist. Logic is useful. It helps us plan, compare, protect, and adjust. But when logic becomes the only ruler of a life, the mind begins to take over everything. Day after day starts to feel like an unfinished task list. You keep completing what is in front of you, but slowly lose contact with the voice underneath. So letting the mind clock out is not anti-intellectual. It is not giving up responsibility. It is letting the mind return to its proper place. The mind can serve. It does not need to rule. When the mind finally grows quiet, the heart can speak. The soul can step forward, and a different rhythm can begin to lead your life. Most of us believe we are choosing the rhythm of our lives. But if you look closely, you may find something else. The mind has been working the late shift for years. It schedules, warns, compares, predicts, and edits. It reaches for the controls before you even notice a choice has appeared. There is the conscious mind, the part that plans, analyzes, decides, and manages the visible day. Then there is the subconscious, the deeper layer that stores repeated emotional patterns. It remembers what felt safe, what hurt, what earned approval, and what brought rejection. The conscious mind handles the meeting, the message, the checklist. The subconscious is more like the night watchman, quiet, hidden, and always listening. Long before you could explain yourself, it was already forming impressions. It learned how love felt in your home. It absorbed the emotional weather around you. That is why an adult can sincerely want abundance, yet keep reacting from old fear. A new opportunity appears, but the body tightens. A compliment arrives, but suspicion rises first. More money comes in, but so does the feeling that it will disappear. You may think the problem is the opportunity itself. Often, the deeper issue is an old inner setting still running in the background. Louise Hay taught that old beliefs keep replaying until they are met with love and replaced. That idea should not be treated as medical proof. It belongs to her spiritual and emotional framework. But as a way of understanding daily life, it is useful. A person who learned, "I must struggle to be worthy," will often keep choosing struggle. A person who learned, "It is unsafe to receive," may quietly push away what they asked for. Letting the mind clock out gives the surface mind a rest. It allows the deeper pattern to be heard. It creates a small opening where a new response can enter. The goal is to stop letting a frightened mind run every shift alone. When the inner meeting grows quiet, something more truthful can take the chair. And the life you build no longer has to be managed by fear. There comes a moment when you can say, inwardly and simply, "It is time to clock out." That sentence is not a rejection of work. It is a change in inner command. You are not just closing a task list. You are stepping out of the habit of bracing for impact. You are putting down the schedule written by anxiety. You are allowing the body and the deeper self to return to the same rhythm. It may start in a morning that looks ordinary. You wake up and do not reach for the phone right away. You do not immediately ask what has to get done. For a few breaths, you ask a different question. How do I want to meet this day? That small question changes the center of gravity. You are no longer just carrying out the world's demands. You become someone who can feel your own state before obeying the noise. You still act, you still answer messages, you still make choices, but the action no longer begins from panic. When you live this way, the outer world often starts to feel different. Inspiration does not have to be hunted down so aggressively. It finds more room to enter. Opportunities do not always arrive through strain. Sometimes they appear because you are calm enough to notice them. A conversation becomes easier. A decision becomes clearer. A schedule that once felt hostile begins to find a more humane rhythm. This does not mean reality has become obedient to your wishes. It means you are no longer meeting reality from a state of war. When you stop trying to force life to prove you are safe, you make better choices. You hear what is actually being offered. You can respond instead of defend. The shift from inner state to outer life is not always dramatic. It may be quiet at first, but quiet does not mean weak. It means the old machinery is slowing down. Something more alive can begin moving in its place. Once the mind begins to rest, the real work becomes more tender. It is not about rebuilding yourself from the ground up. It is more like tending a garden that has been covered for too long. The soil is still there, but it needs light, water, and patience. Louise Hay returned again and again to one essential idea. The way we see ourselves shapes the life we allow ourselves to receive. If you keep meeting yourself with suspicion, your inner world learns suspicion. If you keep speaking to yourself with blame, your inner world learns blame. And if you keep pushing yourself through fear, even abundance may feel unsafe when it comes close. So the first step is simple. Become still. Not forever, not perfectly, just long enough for the noise to settle. Sit for a few minutes. Put down the phone. Let the next task wait. Feel the breath moving through the body. As the body settles, the mind becomes less harsh. The deeper self becomes easier to hear. Then speak to yourself with love. This is the heart of the affirmation work Hay made famous. An affirmation is not a magic sentence. It is a new way of addressing the part of you that learned fear too early. You might say, I am safe. I am willing to receive. I no longer need to earn love through exhaustion. At first, the words may feel awkward. That does not mean they are false. It may only mean the old voice has been speaking for a long time. Then let the inner picture change. Visualization is not escaping into fantasy. Used gently, it lets the subconscious practice a different normal. Close your eyes and feel the life you are moving toward. Not only the image, feel the breath, the ease in the shoulders, the room around you, the safety in the body. The point is not to impress the universe with a perfect picture. The point is to let your inner world practice receiving without fear. Then release old protection. Many limiting beliefs are not enemies. They were once strategies for survival. The old beliefs may sound familiar. I must work harder to be loved. I should not ask for too much. Good things do not stay. At one time, those beliefs may have tried to keep you safe. Now you can thank them and let them clock out. This is how the inner landscape begins to loosen. The garden does not need to be forced open. It needs space to remember the sun. Understanding the subconscious is only the beginning. At some point, the question becomes daily and concrete. If the mind clocks out, what takes its place? The answer is not passivity. After the mind clocks out, the soul goes to work. It works through the state you keep returning to, one day at a time. The subconscious does not respond well to pressure. It responds to repetition, feeling, image, and tone. So begin with a small pocket of quiet. 5 minutes can be enough. Sit without trying to perform. Breathe without turning the breath into another task. Let stillness become a signal. We can live another way now. Then choose words the body can slowly believe. Say, I am willing to receive. I can let life be easier than it used to be. Then let the body remember. Real change is not only an idea in the head. It becomes real when the body can feel the new state. If you imagine a freer life, notice how your shoulders soften. Notice how your breath slows and how your hands stop gripping. Then meet the old loyalties. Some patterns remain because they are loyal to an earlier pain. You may still be proving yourself to someone who is no longer in the room. You can say to that pattern, "Thank you, you helped me survive, but I am ready to be led differently now." Finally, allow. The deepest potential in you is not forced out through punishment. It rises when you stop squeezing yourself with blame. The light inside you does not need to argue for its right to exist. It needs a place where it is no longer interrupted by fear. When this becomes part of ordinary life, you may notice a strange reversal. The world does not necessarily become easier all at once, but you stop adding so much resistance to what is already there. Doors feel less threatening. Delays feel less like a verdict. Abundance becomes easier to recognize. It may have been there all along. It was waiting for the part of you that knows how to receive. True abundance is not always sudden luck. Sometimes it is what becomes visible when you finally stop fighting yourself. For years, you may have asked what you need to do to succeed, but a quieter part of you has been asking something deeper. Can I stop proving my right to exist? That question changes everything. Real change is not only the move from desire to strategy, it is also a return to something more basic. Can I live as if I am already worthy of receiving? When you stop rushing and performing, you may discover a different ground beneath you. You stop begging the world for permission to receive. You are not empty trying to become abundant. You are already alive with capacity. It has simply been covered by fear and old self-judgment. Letting the soul guide your life does not mean giving up action. It means action no longer has to be fueled by panic. So give yourself one day. Do not check the numbers first. Do not tighten the plan first. Do not pretend to be stronger than you are. Do one thing. Let the mind clock out. Drink a cup of tea. Watch a cloud move. Listen to the self you have ignored for too long. Then you may begin to notice something. That call you waited for may already be on its way. So may the order, the answer, or the opening you kept trying to force, not because you chased it harder, because you finally made room. You are not here to become a more acceptable version of yourself. You are here to remember that you have never been as lacking as fear told you. May you stop doubting your own rhythm. May you stop comparing your progress to someone else's road. May the unknown stop feeling like a threat and begin to feel like space. From here, you do not need to rush. You do not need to prove. You only need to walk in the direction your inner life can truly agree with. Quietly, step by step, life can bring the turn you did not see coming. It can bring the meeting that arrives at the right time. It can return the answer in a form you would never have planned. When you stop forcing life to answer, the answer finally has room to find you.